Once, in a quiet village that lay between the whispering pines and a slow-moving river, there lived a girl who was known to everyone by the color she wore. Her grandmother had sewn her a bright red cloak with a hood that framed her face like a sunrise. She wore it so often that even the baker, who forgot most people's names, called her simply Little Red Riding Hood. Red was curious, quick, and kind, the kind of child who noticed beetles crossing a path or clouds that looked like ships. Her mother loved her fiercely, but worried that curiosity would one day carry her farther than it should. One crisp morning, the sun rose pale and cold, spreading a mist across the hills. Red's mother packed a small basket with a loaf of fresh bread, a pot of honey, and a jar of soup that still steamed. "Your grandmother is ill," she said. "This will comfort her. Go straight along the path and do not linger. The woods can change their face when you aren't looking." Red nodded, but inside she felt excitement more than fear. She'd walked to her grandmother's house before, a tiny cottage with blue shutters hidden deep among the birches. The forest was not her enemy. It was a mystery she longed to understand. She set out just as the last frost melted into glittering drops. The path curved beneath tall trees that murmured like an audience. Birds called out her arrival. Red swung her basket lightly and hummed a tune her grandmother had taught her about courage and good manners. For a while, everything was still and peaceful until the shadows stretched, and a voice, smooth and deep as honey, poured from stone, slipped between the trees. "Good morning, little traveler," said the wolf. He stood partly in shadow, silver fur catching bits of light. His eyes were sharp, but not unkind. His smile could have been mistaken for charm if one did not look too long. "Good morning," Red answered politely. "I'm going to visit my grandmother. She's not feeling well." "How thoughtful," said the wolf. "Such devotion deserves reward. Tell me, where does your grandmother live?" Red hesitated. Her mother's warning echoed like a bell. Go straight and speak to no strangers. But the wolf's voice was velvet, and curiosity, that old friend, tugged at her sleeve. "She lives at the edge of the forest, beyond the 3 birch trees and the wild rose hedge," Red said. The wolf's ears twitched. "A lovely walk on a lovely day," he said. "Have you noticed the wildflowers near the stream? Your grandmother would adore a bouquet. Such kindness might make her well again." Red's eyes widened. She had indeed seen flashes of color between the trees. "I'll pick a few," she said. The wolf bowed. "Then we shall both wish your grandmother health." As Red turned down toward the stream, the wolf loped silently through the underbrush, taking a faster, darker route that only a creature of the forest would know. By the time Red's basket was half filled with blossoms, daisies, violets, and one stubborn wild rose, the wolf was already at the grandmother's cottage. He knocked softly. "Who's there?" came a weak voice. "It's me, your granddaughter," he said, curling his tongue around the lie. "Lift the latch, my dear," the grandmother replied, trusting and tired. In a breath, the wolf was inside. A gust of cold air followed him. The grandmother gasped, but before she could cry out, the wolf swallowed her whole, not out of hatred, but out of hunger that had learned to wear patience like a disguise. Then he looked around, saw the nightgown and cap on the chair, and smiled. A plan formed as naturally as shadow follows shape. Moments later, when Red arrived, the door stood slightly open. The room smelled of herbs and smoke, the fire burning low. "Grandmother," Red called, stepping inside, "it's me." "Come in, my dear," said a voice from the bed, softer, lower, muffled beneath quilts. Red hesitated. The light flickered strangely across the figure beneath the blankets. "Grandmother, what big arms you have," she said slowly. "All the better to hug you with, my dear." "And what big ears you have." All the better to hear you with. Red frowned. And what big eyes you have. All the better to see you with. The voice quivered now, the disguise cracking like old paint. Red took one cautious step back. And what big teeth you have, grandmother. The wolf threw off the covers with a growl. All the better to eat you with. The room exploded in motion, quilts flying, chairs tumbling. Red darted to the corner, clutching her basket like a shield. Her heart pounded, but fear sharpened her wits. On the table sat the heavy iron teapot, still half full of scalding water. As the wolf lunged, she flung it. Steam and shock filled the room. The wolf yelped, stumbled, and crashed through the door into the yard. Red didn't wait. She ran after him, shouting for help. A woodcutter working nearby heard the cries. He seized his axe and ran toward the sound. When he saw the wolf fleeing, smoke curling from his fur, he swung the flat side of his blade and knocked the beast to the ground. The wolf, panting and dazed, tried to rise, but one look from the woodcutter ended the struggle. Red, trembling but unhurt, pointed toward the cottage. My grandmother, he swallowed her whole. The woodcutter, who knew the ways of wild things, cut carefully into the wolf's belly, and out came the grandmother, blinking in the sudden light, alive but indignant. Well, she said, brushing soot from her sleeves, that's one way to cure a cold. They laughed, the kind of laughter that comes after danger, a sound made of relief and disbelief. The wolf lay still, his eyes closing not in malice, but in the long rest of a creature who had never learned enough kindness to survive. Red helped her grandmother back into bed, brought her soup, and whispered, I'm sorry. I should have stayed on the path. Her grandmother smiled, tired but wise. You learned the forest's lesson, child. The world is not always what it seems, but neither are you. You are braver than you knew. When Red's mother arrived, she found them both alive and laughing softly over tea. From that day on, Red still walked the forest path, but she did so with eyes and heart open, not afraid, not reckless, simply aware. She learned to greet the shadows without stepping into them. Sometimes she even heard a rustle in the distance and thought of the wolf, not with hatred, but with understanding. For stories live on, and every path through the woods is a promise. There will be danger, and there will be light, and courage will always find its way between them.